إذا تتذكرون الموتور والسنسوري واللي هي sympathetic sensory برضه. We talked about the memory, we talked about the vision, we talked about primary vision والauditory with taste. All of them are really significant زي ما نقول areas. Today we're going to talk about if there is disturbance, what's the actual what we could see and notice. And this is very related to what you will be taught next year, the same semester of next year, where you will be talking about the stroke condition or neurological conditions and the effect of it over the, like when you hopefully inshallah next year reach, you will we will talk about an OT intervention specifically, why we do it, how we do it. So it's important to have a background information about how the cognition, how the condition happens, and why it looks like this. Don't يعني forget all of this because it will come back. And I was surprised we were asking the fourth year they don't know الهemiplegia والdiaplegia وال different types of conditions. Let's get started. So hopefully our objective today, we will talk about the major cerebral cortex dysfunction problem. We have 5, upper motor neuron paralysis, we call it, loss of perception and sensation. 3 is the aphasia, 4 is apraxia, 5 agnosia. And please don't mix them up, okay? فالاختبار you will have them 100% راح تجيكم. فدون ميكس على سبيل المثال الابراكسيا في الافيجا. They look the same, so just practice spelling them because في الاختبار ما راح يجيكم pronunciation لأنها سهلة when I'm saying it, it's different, but when you look at it written, it's very similar. Just this is for your consideration. And we will just touch base on hemispheric dominant. We talked about, but we will just talk in more detail how it affects the brain in general. So the first one اللي هي upper motor neuron paralysis. Okay, we have upper motor neuron. Okay, and lower. So just you remember we touch base on what we call UMN. These upper motor neuron paralysis, and they are caused when there is a lesion in the brain or there is a stroke. Paralysis usually happen to the contralateral side of the body. What we mean by that, if the stroke happened in the right hemisphere, it's the left side. If the stroke happened in the right hemisphere, it's your right side, okay, or the patient right side. That's where the deficit will happen. So it's the opposite side to where the lesion or the stroke happen or the injury, let's say, okay. You would know على سبيل المثال when you receive a patient right side hemisphere, you know exactly you're expecting a left side deficit, okay. And we will touch base على بعض الأشياء هنا ها. It will tell you right or left إذا كان في injury or stroke specifically. What would you expect? It doesn't look like this all the time, but what do you expect because of the area that the stroke impacted or impact? We know a pre-central gyrus and the association motor area is located there. That's where the paralysis happen usually. And then there is a frequent association with hemanopias in general, which is you will lose half of your visual field, okay. That's what will happen. يعني على سبيل المثال let's say this is one eye, this is your visual field, this is imagination, okay. This is your visual field على سبيل المثال, and what happened على حسب وين الستروك, okay, you will lose half here and half here, okay. So this is what you will see blackness. طبعا البيشنت صعب انه notice it, but this is الهيمونوبيا. And actually في واحدة من الكلاسز we will talk in detail and talk about the intervention of it and talk about the types of it. So this is just very specific. Again, we're not talking about OT intervention here. We're not expecting you to know the OT intervention by now. There is a class specifically for that, but you have to know a condition, you have to know names, and you have to know the mechanism or the injury or the cause, because it will play a part. Plus there is a paralysis of the muscles of the facial expression. Okay, على حسب area there will be a paralysis usually. Stroke frequently involve what we call the middle cerebral artery. This is usually we quote it by stroke artery لأنه it's the most common one that there would be a stroke. Either it's burst or there is a blockage over there. That's usually where strokes occur or happen. Usually, it's usually actually this artery, اللي هي middle cerebral artery, actually supplies the pre-central gyrus, and it supplies the internal capsule, the thalamus, and the post-central gyrus. So it's affecting a really huge area, and why the optic pathway affected, it's because the stroke, when it happened in the middle cerebral artery, it's actually involved the anterior capsule and the thalamus, and that's where the fibers of the optical pathway lead or originated actually. This is in general what would you see with the upper motor neuron paralysis. Okay, it's involved in the pre-central gyrus or association area. Next to it, there is a high frequency of heminopias in general, facial expression, muscle weakness of the facial expression or paralysis, and it involves the middle cerebral artery. So the second part is actually loss of perception and the ability to discriminate general sensation. This occur all at the same time, simultaneously. So it's not something happen and then it will follow. So all of this will happen at the same time. طبعا بعض الأحيان ما يبان extent of the stroke until the patient is out of the acute أو out of the ICU إذا كان في surgery, أو على سبيل المثال starting to see the rehab. You will see some of the deficit. They emerge. It's there, but you will see it when you do functional task, and that's why we're different in terms of OT. We're doing functional task that get to the patient. So it's lost from the contralateral side of the body. Again, it's related to the post-central gyrus of the parietal lobe. Okay, here it's different. It's parietal, and affecting the parietal lobe specifically. It's related to sensation and discrimination and perception. So with the parietal lobe, what happened is the posterior portion of the parietal lobe is actually where all the instant spatial coordination happen. Okay, of all parts of your own body. It actually where you constantly integrate them. يعني مثال وانت جالس تمشي, okay, there is a coordination between the right and left foot, صح ولا لا؟ You will not, على سبيل المثال, ترفع رجلك اليمين الى ما تنزل رجلك اليسار عشان don't lose balance. Okay, when you start على سبيل المثال تركض, okay, that's what happened. when you, أول ما تسبح على سبيل المثال, all of these are coordination, spatial coordination with the space, looking at the space. اوكي, when you try على سبيل المثال انك تمسك اي رياضه, كوره, باسكت بول, كره قدم, all of these are require spatial coordination, and it happened there. There is a difference between spatial coordination and balance. Balance is in a different area. It's totally different. This is spatial, so it relates to the space. It's related to where you are, okay? And it integrates where you are in space. So it's different than when I'm talking balance. I'm talking walk. I'm not talking balance. Is where you place your foot. Balance is different. Balance is the cerebellum, okay? That's where ataxia happen, loss of coordination, all of these related condition. لكن بالبرايتال it's where you are in space, okay? Where you feel in space. Can you fit yourself in that space? Can you not bump into things, تصقع بالأشياء, walk correctly, تعرف you can judge على سبيل المثال. خلينا نقول الدبث والويدث حق الدرج you're not gonna على سبيل المثال fall. ما لها دخل في المسل coordination. It's all about your spatial awareness. So if the parietal cortex is damaged, and this is really really significant, you see it a lot, the person may ignore what we call the contralateral side of that body. This specifically, the right parietal cortex is very common. We call it a left side neglect. فعلى سبيل المثال إذا جتك نوت من الطبيب ومكتوب إنه suspect of parietal or there is an injury or a stroke in the right parietal cortex or in the parietal cortex, you would suspect a neglect. What we know about the neglect is personal neglect of hemi inattention, and we will talk about it in the next slide. They may actually, that person, ignore a specific body part or the whole left side. وهو يمين انه specific part يمكن على سبيل المثال ما ينتبه ليده، ممكن ما ينتبه على سبيل المثال الاطراف اصابعه، ممكن ما ينتبه على سبيل المثال الجهه اليسار من وجهه، او the whole body يعني the whole left side من your foot okay to the trunk to the shoulder to the elbows to the left side of your face. All of this is will be ignored. That's it depends on the stroke, it depends on multiple condition and the lesion where it occur or the extent of the lesion. So what will you see with patient who have we call it neglect or spatial neglect، بعض الأحيان نسميه left side neglect or neglect نعطيها يعني اختصار تسمية. Non-movable or non-move of the left side extremity. They will not move their left hand, okay. تحس انه ناسيها، مو هو بعرفها، تسأله حرك يدك، يدي لازم يسحب يده اليمين عشان يحرك يده اليسار، اوكي، تكي فيها. There will be lack of awareness of the sensory stimulus. تحط على سبيل المثال شيء يحار بارد so في الجهة اليسار they will not know, okay, unless they see it by vision, but they will not know, they will not notice. Lack of personal hygiene and grooming. يعني على سبيل المثال when they start shaving إذا كان رجال left side will be ignored، هذا بعد الرهاب. إذا على سبيل المثال combing their hair أو يحاول يسوي الشعر أو يحط على سبيل المثال product على شعره they will forget the left side. When they take a shower they will left side the whole, they will not يعني wash it, okay. For all of this is really really significant. The patient plan movement around, okay, use of only the conscious recognition side of the body. So they will do everything in the right side, okay, their right side. So they will actually try to walk through their right side, they will actually initiate everything through their right side. They may involve spatial neglect, and this is interesting. Spatial neglect is the lack of understanding of spatial relationship. In على سبيل المثال, for example, in painting a picture the left half may be omitted. هذه spatially when you actually copying something. طبعا قلنا neglect or left neglect البيرسون جهته اليسار ما هو بعرفها، لكن هنا السبيشال نيجلكت على سبيل المثال اول ما يرسم رسمه they will ignore the left side. اول ما يحط ساعه they will ignore the left side. اول ما ياكل they will ignore the food in the left side. مو هو متعني they ignore it, they don't know it, they don't see it, they don't notice it, okay. they really really don't notice any of it. فعلى سبيل المثال هنا هذا معروف ارتست كان عنده self betray recovery from stroke. I'm reading from this هنا I have to take this away so I can read it. Left stroke caused by what we call a neglect syndrome. 2 months after the suffering of the stroke affecting the parietal cortex on the right side, as we said, the artist made the upper left betray. هذه اليسار اللي اعلى اليسار اللي فوق على اليسار. You see ما في left side at all. ما في اي شيء في الليفت سايد بس انه يحس انه خلص الرسمه. That's the different. There is virtually no left side to the face in the painting. 3.5 months after the stroke they made the upper right side, this right side. You see في شويه details خلينا نقول of the left side but nearly as much as in the right side. At 6 months the lower left you can see في لكن شويه ما هي organized. وبعد تقريبا فتره من increasing the treatment they made the final picture which is here. طبعا القصد يعني see the detail يعني حتى هنا تلاحظون التوقيع. شوف التوقيع هنا كيف توقيع الارتست. It's totally different, okay, because they neglect, they cannot tell. طبعا هذه مع treatment فيو could tell انه يعني my hypothesis او المناظر على هذا اليسار بدا انه سوى ال N انا اعتقد ال V08 بعدين realize انه he had to add ال AR فوق فهي added it later. Okay, so that's how neglect affect you in general. هنا على سبيل المثال تقول له ارسم الساعة. Okay, وجه الساعة. This is how they will see it only. So there is nothing in the left side you could see. Zero. ما في أي شيء هنا And surprising when you ask them يقول لك خلص. You sure؟ خلص of course. فعلى سبيل المثال واحدة من الديفيسيتس اللي يعانون منها وهنا مين مذكورة actually أول ما يبدأ يقرأ خاصة اللي بدأ يقرأ بالإنجليزي they will omit ينسى. أوكي يبدأ على سبيل المثال تقريبا من رابع خامس كلمة لأنه مو they cannot realize إنه في كلام على اليسار. أوكي يسار اليسار. ف when they start حتى أول ما يبدأ أول سطر يروح للسطر الثاني في 3 كلمات أو 4 كلمات بالسطر الثاني باليسار ينساها. مو بينساها they ignore it. Okay, they neglect it. That's the correct word. ف is really يعني difficult to see patient like this and you will work a lot with them. يعني اتذكر عندنا patients تقول له خلصت لبس يقول لك ايوه. تناظر طبعا الجاكيت تناظر مو بحط الجهه اليسار at all. طيب جهتك اليسار reminder نحط قدامه مرايه و they start to realize some of the انه they ignoring or they actually not ignoring they actually neglecting. As I said في بيشن كان عندنا على سبيل المثال اتذكر بعد كان يمشي وما ينتبه لجهته اليسار كل شوي يصقع وكبير بالعمر فكنا خايفين انه he falls. We try to teach him, we try to get him through rehab. All of these are really difficult cases and there are a lot of them. طبعا again حرجع اسوي referral لأوليفر ساكس في كتاب واحده من كتبه كان يتكلم على النجلكت ويتكلم ما كان معروف طبعا هو يتكلم اول ما كان ما هو معروف بعدين تحط الديفينيشن حق النجلكت فيتكلم على بيشن على سبيل المثال تقول له خلصت الاكل تقول لك ايوه شو يسوي يلف لها الصحن اوكي من اليمين لليسار اليسار لليمين يلف الصحن فيقول له طيب وهذا تقول له ما ادري فيكونوا ناقصين وزن يكون عندهم هذه المشاكل. فهي actually started يعني واحده من التريتمنت اللي it's the first thing we ever يعني noticed يعني بالاكل يكون الصحن قدامهم ينسى الجهه اليسار. اوكي فيلف الصحن 180 درجه الجهه اليسار تكون في اليمين فذي ريلايز انه باقي اكل ويكملون اكل طبعا compensatory. ف in your neuro rehab we will talk about the treatment approach or how you would actually look at them from compensatory to rehabilitative to many other things strategy using as well. طيب the neglect result a right-sided person and neglect special neglect also occur if the left parietal lobe is severely damaged but this is not frequent okay اذا تشوف شخص عنده right side عشان كذا دائما نسميه left neglect لانه usually تقريبا 99% الى 98% let's say انه left side okay if it's a right side it's personal and special neglect can occur لكن إذا كان very severe stroke to the left parietal lobe. طيب الaphagias we talked about them okay we talked about the brachia we talk about the rancor we talk about the global the conductive the condition or the conduction aphagias all of them we talk about them so remember the difference between them why they are called in this way and how you would distinguish each one of them. طيب apraxias is our inability or the patient inability to carry out on a request to carry out on a request a complex or skilled movement. فإذا كانت على سبيل المثال الموفمنت complex زي ما قلنا حط يدك اليسار على عينك اليمين وارفع رجلك اليمين ولف وهوب على رجلك اليسار. It's very complex. They will become very difficult to do it. And skill movement زي على سبيل المثال النتنج الخياطة وهذه الأشياء. Failure is not actually due to the paralysis ما لها علاقة في الباراليسيس side ما لها علاقة بالأتاكسيا. Ataxia is a different condition ما لها علاقة في loss of sensation input or the dysfunction of understanding ما عنده confusion or على سبيل المثال problem solving issues okay وطبعا ataxia نقصد فيها الكوردينيشن ataxia is a different زي ما قلنا انها بالسيريبلم it's a totally different condition. The problem resides and is in the cerebral cortex. That's apraxia. Usually we do it مع الأطفال بشكل دائم لأنه في أطفال كثير عندهم مشاكل في الأبراكسيا واللي هي احنا نسميها بعض الأحيان executive functioning how they would actually do it. فعلى سبيل المثال في سبت في أنواع كثيرة assessment تستخدم component of apraxia. وفي انواع لها في copying imitation apraxia انت تسوي والمريض يسوي وراك اوكي او انه على سبيل المثال تقول له حط اتس commanding نسميها اللي هي verbal apraxia سوي زي اللي انا جالس اقول لكم طبعا لاني ما اشوفكم ف we would start with اللي هي الimitation apraxia بعدين تروح للverbal لان الverbal اصعب. طيب is actually happen lesion occur in a variety of various area which could include the pre-motor cortex and the supplemental motor cortex SMA in the frontal lobe. This is the most common. It's related to the frontal lobe. Okay, it's not related to the زي ما قلنا اللي هي الموتور area اللي هي البري central. It's more of the premotor cortex and the supplementary motor cortex in the frontal lobe. These area must communicate and integrate information. So it's more of integration of information. It's not voluntary. يعني على سبيل المثال أبغى أرفع يدي علشان أشرب كاس الموية. No, it's not voluntary. It's more of a coordination. It's more of a complex task. لأنها متعددة الخطوات. فواحدة من الأشياء في الأبراكسيا usually we do 1 2 5 3 commands فتسوي 1 command بسيط حط يدك كذا بعدين تسوي double command usually don't do 1 you start with 2 بعدين الcomplex is 4 or 5 that's very complex. There is examples فعلى سبيل المثال الأجرافيا is patient they are unable to write so they cannot write at all. هذا condition okay it's not related زي ما قلنا لل paralysis of الهاند ولكنها it's a condition it's a premotor and supplementary motor cortex لانه لو ترجعون تتذكرون الكتابه if you remember اول ما كنا على سبيل المثال تتعلم الحروف اوكي اول ما تتعلم الحروف تتذكر انه it's a complex task يعني على سبيل المثال I forgot بالعربي مو بس اني حتى ما احب انه اعرف كيف كنت اسوي في العربي لكن في الانجليش يقول لك حرف الاي زي التنت وخط بينهم فاتس فيري كومبلكس. الجي كيف، الار كيف، الكابيتال والسمول. فاتس 3 2 steps usually. ما في الا حروف بسيطه اللي 1 step. و you have to have them within the line. ما تطلع عن اللاين. ف they cannot write actually. I don't know if they can type يعني على الكمبيوتر. I really don't know. لكنه it's an interesting question to know. Google it to someone tell me next week إذا كان هذول اللي عنده الجرافيا can actually type instead of writing. الترانسميسيف هي هنا apraxia is an ability to carry out sequence of skills of motor movement. نقصد في sequence repetition فيها multiple. يعني tying one shoes. يعني أول ما تحاول على سبيل المثال تربط، تذكرون إذا ايام المدرسه اذا بغيت تربط الجزمه كيف بالبدايه ما يعرف الطفل يربطها، الاهل يربطونها، بعدين تبدون يعلمونه. اول شيء اليمين في اليسار، سوي علامه اكس، بعدين اضغط عليهم، بعدين على سبيل المثال رابط اير يمين ويدك اليسار، بعدين اضغط عليهم وسوي كروس واربطهم. فهذا واحده من الاشياء اللي هاو يو ترين. طبعا في اشياء كثيره تريننج فيها يعني اسهل. brushing the teeth, combing the hair، لانه brushing the teeth فيها movement وفيها ورا قدام الامام للخلف. الcombing hair فيها coordination، مو coordination it's more of a complex. washing one face as well لان فيها repetition وفيها sequence تكرار. احد عنده سؤال so far ولا واضح؟ انا عارف ان عندكم صح ميد تيرم، اكيد اذا كنتوا هادين زي كذا عندكم ميد تيرم، مو هو بهدوء، هدوء على غير العاده زي ما يقولون. طيب ايش فيكم هادين؟ غريبه. بكره في ميد تيرم، اذا ما هو باليوم 100% بكره. غريبه. لا لا لا، في شيء اجل اجل فيكم النوم. طيب let's continue through it. Agnosia is next Tuesday. عندكم وقت كثير ما شاء الله، جدولكم حلو. طيب الagnosia is a definition is an ability to perceive sensation through otherwise normal function sensory pathway. So is actually we will talk about it next. Is the nerve and the pathway are very okay. There is no deficits in it. The deficit occur in the cerebral cortex زي ما قلنا. This apply to both the special senses and the general senses. Next we will talk about type of it.